Welcome to the Fireplace, a warm and welcoming space where we discuss all things cultural diversity and multiculturalism. In this episode, I'm with Honorable Fiona Simpson, Queensland State Minister for Multicultural Affairs. Welcome, Minister Simpson.
Thank you very much. It's a delight to meet you and to finally be able to talk on your podcast.
Thank you. I'm really grateful for accepting my invitation. And probably to begin our issues, I want to find out from you. The Queensland Multicultural policy speaks about inclusion and creating harmonious societies, as well as creating a united state as far as Queensland is concerned. In your opinion, how does this look like in practice?
We believe in a free democratic society where there is a belief in the power of humanity, where everyone's equal. So whatever people's cultural background, from our most ancient of peoples, our first peoples of Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, through to all the diverse cultural groups who've migrated since settlement in Australia. Everyone should have the same rights under law. Now, with each of those waves, as people have come, they've all found that as they establish themselves in a new country, they have to find a way to survive economically, integrate socially, and then they can become part of this beautiful tapestry that is who Australia is today. So how does it work in practice? There's been many waves of people of very different migrant backgrounds, and I think that Australia really, there is no perfect country, no perfect system, but we are a country of peace where people have the same rights under law in a democratic country. And I think that we're blessed to have that peace, and we should always be trying to facilitate on that very grassroots human level, a belief in why it matters, why peace and the opportunity to participate matters.
That's so insightful and really expounds on the whole issue of the practicability of multiculturalism. On this very same podcast, I've heard conversation with community leaders who have highlighted that discrimination and racism has shifted a lot from statements like "go back where you came from" to now being more of a structural racism and discrimination. And this is to say that people from diverse background are not on the decision-making level and at the decision-making table, which in any way impacts them as far as the decisions being made. They are the ones to implement them. What is your government's perspective as far as this is concerned?
I think we need to be really practical. I know a lot of people have theories about integration and how to overcome barriers, but you can learn a lot from those who, through different waves of migration and their lived experience. I'm reminded of, say, some of our Vietnamese community who've been here now several decades, and when they first came to Australia, perhaps they found it hard because of the language barriers to access some of the paid work opportunities as they were learning language. They then established their own businesses because they knew how to, they weren't going to be stopped. And language is a significant barrier. I'm not saying that's the only barrier, but I think we need to talk very practically that where language is a barrier, how do we help people take on English as the main language of commerce and social life, the language that is of the people in Australia. How do we help equip people mostly so that they can access some of those opportunities? Now, I know you can quite rightly raise other issues and challenges, but language is firstly one of the things that we can't get around the fact that the more that people are able to express themselves, they have the better opportunity to participate. But back to the story of some of the Vietnamese, I think of the women, but there were men as well, where they established businesses, and that's how they created their pathway to feed their families. And when I've met some of the next generation, the kids who were studying at the table in the back room, my mum was running the shop. At till 9 o'clock at night doing their study. They're now the doctors, the nurses, the teachers. So there are different experiences in different generations, and other cultural groups will tell how they found their pathway. But language, firstly, is one thing that I think we need to do as much as possible to help people at different stages of life be able to access opportunity by being able to fully participate. That still remains, I think, a great challenge the older people are when they migrate. It is always harder, but then you watch with the dynamics in families where often the kids are the ones who are interpreting for the families. And so, look, this is a space where the more that we can help people have the tools of participating, then how they use those tools, that is the freedom of choice as much as possible, in the same way we didn't say to the Vietnamese shopkeepers, this is what you're going to do. They knew they could do it, and that was their pathway to their economic freedom. There will be different stories with different groups, but I appreciate it's really understanding what those barriers practically look like. Some of the other practical challenges are around skills recognition. And I know I've had different groups raise this, so I said, well, it may not give you comfort to know that we have skill recognition issues even between states of Australia. Some of these things aren't structural racism, they're bureaucracy and red tape. And I've even had cohorts of teachers coming from places like Spain who've had difficulty navigating the system. So I think there is more work to be done in regard to skill recognition and pathways for recognition. And that is a challenge even coming from New Zealand. I had a certain vocation in New Zealand in my electorate. His family had always been in New Zealand. Great difficulty in making that skills recognition jump to Australia, and we're able to find our way through to help him with a pathway. These are practical issues, and I think, look, I don't deny that there are barriers, but these are practical ways that we can help people overcome. And red tape, it can be a challenge, but we should always strive to help people find pathways to be able to run their own future, whether they're as a tradie or a business person or working in the public service. And actually we've got a good story to tell where there's been an increase in people from culturally diverse backgrounds coming to work as a reflection of the community that we live in.
Right.
And can I ask you, you probably grew up speaking and learning English as well.
Yeah.
And was that something where you found it a challenge, where people would say, hang on a tick, I don't expect you to speak English, and they didn't stop and hear you speak? Or
No.
No? You were always able to express yourself?
Very.
I don't say that there won't be people who'll still have their prejudices and their discrimination, but it does unlock the world if people can express themselves.
Articulate and communicate ideas and create opportunities.
Absolutely, because learning a language is more than just the mechanical of I'm going to the shop to buy bread. That helps. But if you can express ideas, then you're able to really participate in authentically who you are.
That's true. I agree with you on that. Right. The Strengthening Multicultural Queensland program, it funds projects with a purpose to address barriers and indeed create opportunities for culturally diverse and linguistically diverse communities. What trends or gaps have you experienced over time with this type of funding?
They're very popular grants programs, and one of the issues that was raised with me when I became Minister for Multiculturalism in the Christopher government was that there are established communities and emerging communities, and some of the emerging communities felt like they had a harder time accessing some of those grants. So we've been listening to that and trying to ensure that when the applications come in, when they're being assessed and the guidelines, that we're getting more of a spread of access to some of those grants and funding. I like these grant programs because they're really about partnership with community, and a lot of the innovation with community saying, I see a need, I know a great idea and I want to do something about it, and I've got some skin in the game to make it happen. You do that in partnership with community. So I have changed some of the guidelines or strengthened the guidelines
Awesome.
in our Strengthening Communities Multicultural Fund to particularly put more of a focus on young people and sports events, sporting activities, and our Celebrating, which is the events funding, Celebrating Multiculturalism. Also, you can apply for funding for sporting events. So sport is a great way for people to fully participate, and it's a great way for young people also to have a skill, be kept busy, doing good things, but with good role models.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people who coach and who organise sports are good role models within community. So there is a spread of where the grants go, but there are more coming through now where there is that sporting focus. In fact, some of the groups that have got funding under their programs, such as the fact that our Celebrating Multicultural Queensland grants, Queensland Fiji Football Association, their Q Cup in 2026, the Mandela Cup 2026.
Familiar with that.
In Brisbane Southwest. So these are some that will have been approved for funding. And I think recognising sports, youth, great area, many worthy organisations and programs, that I think is a great area. That was from feedback we received from community. And I'm sure I'll continue to receive feedback as to what sort of projects, and particularly with some of the emerging groups, how do we recognise them? And as they grow, they'll develop more of their strengths and their muscle to fundraise in their own right, which is what you hope. You hope that people become strong as community organisations where they've got the get up and go to get up and do. And that's been the history of a lot of our older migrant communities and associations.
Have Looks like it's working.
I love it. It's just, I have thoroughly enjoyed coming into this role. I have perhaps a stronger background with parts of Asia and Japan, my personal journey and study and living overseas. There is such a vibrant diversity of communities here in Queensland, and some have come, as we know, from places where there's been terrible wars and tragedies. And the trauma of why they needed to leave is strong as they settle in this wonderful country of ours, but doing good things and re-establishing as each generation comes through. But also recognising some of the leadership, like take Benny Bowl, for example, in the African community. What a wonderful example. And also seeing challenges with young people, how to get alongside and intervene early or strengthen community role models and positive activities. There are some great stories in our state. I look at our hospitals and say, gee, there's a lot of people of fairly recent migrant background. Our hospitals would not be operating without them. Or it might be at the other end of the spectrum in life, where people have different pathways to jobs and economic opportunity. But we're all Australians together. We're just a very colourful history and culture that brings us together as one community.
We are in this together.
Absolutely.
Thank you. The Multicultural Queensland Month, it celebrates stories of belonging and resilience. Is there an opportunity where you have tapped insight from these activities to inform policy at government level?
Yeah, well, their events, their connections and their relationships. I would say it's the relationship part that informs more of the policy, because it's people drive policy. Policy is about how that helps people in their lived experience, and also recognising that there are things that community are best in responding to, and there are areas that government needs to come alongside of. Government certainly has a responsibility around healthcare. As a community, though, we might know, gee, your neighbour might need a hand, and that's something where both our human response as community members can reach out and provide that help, and as governments, it's providing the professional services with the feedback from people. So the answer is yes, but very much in that space around where people are driving those connections.
Right. Many young people from multicultural and cultural diverse backgrounds report feeling disconnected from the mainstream institutions. What policy direction is the government focused in terms of assisting such youth so that they are connected to institutions that are relevant to their everyday lives?
That's a really big question. I think there's a challenge across all cohorts of young people. Some young people, they're fully engaged in life and getting on with the next milestone that they see on their horizon, whether it's studying and then as they get a little older, it might be marrying and having kids and forming a family. And I would reflect that a lot of times in a stable, peaceful, safe democracy, a lot of times people don't think about the foundations unless those foundations are challenged. And so we are a peaceful country. But if we don't participate in a democracy, if we don't not only have a say, but it's a civil society, do something with that say, and that's part of that neighbourhood thing I was talking about. To me, community activism is useless unless you're actually looking after your neighbour. It's taking a voice and helping someone next to you. So I think, I reflect that I think the challenge is with each generation that we have those places where people do interact, be it with sport, interact, be it with culture. Get out of the social media space, it's too shouty, it's too polarised. But to create conversations at a deeper level, because I think social cohesion, social connectedness, be it from diverse cultural backgrounds or backgrounds where people have had longer roots in community, that we do better where people know their neighbours. I know that can sound very simple, but the truth is, I think we're kinder to each other when we actually see the human being, and regardless of face, man, woman, cultural background, and there is a generation of young people who they need to have hope that they can have the opportunity of owning a home. That's a big focus for us as the Christopher Fawley LNP government. We want people to not only aspire to a brighter future and have hope that they have a part in it, but to unlock the opportunity for them to be able to afford to buy a home. More homes being built, more jobs that they can aspire to and say, I can see a pathway to being part of that. That relates to where I want to go. I think all those aspirations have to occupy all of our thoughts, while also reminding ourselves of what can we do as individuals. Never forget your neighbour, be kind to your neighbour. And I know I'm grateful for my neighbours in a very practical sense, because that's where humanity meets humanity.
Wow, I can't thank you enough, Minister Simpson, for accepting me to have this podcast interview with you. And it's been a great honour and a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and I certainly wish you and your viewers into this wonderful year and opportunity. May there be great points of connection, hope, aspiration, and also opportunities for people to really thrive and flourish.
Thank you, Minister. And on that note, we come to the end of this podcast. I hope you enjoy and take lessons from the insights provided by the Minister. Thank you.